Hi guys, so in this video we'll be discussing supply. We'll first of all go over the definition of supply, and then we'll talk about the explanation of the upward sloping supply curve, and then we'll talk about the individual and market supply curves. Okay, moving on. So the definition of supply is the term supply refers to the quantity of goods and services that sellers are willing and able to sell at any given price over any given period of time. So this is the supply curve, and these are all the different prices. These are all the different price points wherever this price line intersects the curve. These are all the different price points that the supply curve exists on, and there are obviously corresponding quantity supplied values over here. For example, this is a supply curve and this is a total supply, right? Don't mix it up with quantity supplied. But now let's choose a specific price point. Let's say 10. So at the price of $10, the producers are willing and able to supply 10 goods, right? So that's the quantity supplied, since we are talking about a specific price point. So this is a quantity supply, right? So for any one particular price, we refer to the term quantity supplied because it establishes a distinct relationship between the price and the quantity that suppliers are willing and able to sell at that price point, right? It results in a movement along the supply curve whenever there's a change in price, and whenever there's a change in non-price factors, it will cause a shift in the supply curve, which we'll look at later on, right? The supply curve is essentially upward sloping, which establishes a positive and direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. And this graph is basically a graphical representation of the law of supply, which states that ceteris paribus, which means all the factors remaining constant, at higher prices, producers are likely to supply more than at lower prices. So that's pretty much it from this part. The next thing is the explanation of the upward sloping supply curve. And so we can explain this using the law of diminishing returns, according to which I'm going to use an example to really explain this one. So let's say and this pizza shop has this limited amount of area on which it is located, right? On this area. And initially it has one unit of labor, one person working, and one oven over here. And now they add one more person and one more oven here. And now they're adding like one more person and one more oven here. So up till this point, what's happening is that their productivity is increasing, right? Their productivity is increasing, but when we start to add more and more factors of production on something that's constant, in this case the factor of production land is constant, right? Since we're talking about the short term, so in this short term what happens is that at least one factor of production is constant, and this explanation only looks at the short term. And so let's say in the short term, since land is constant and we're adding more and more labor, initially the productivity increases, right? But later on what's going to happen is, as you are adding more and more people, they will start coming into each other's ways, and then in the end, the cost of production will increase, right? And so because of that, the producers will want a higher price to compensate for that increase in cost. And that's exactly how we can explain this, because let's say if we were producing a quantity of 10 over here, then they want a price of 10, and now at a quantity of 50, since obviously they're adding more and more people within the same pizza shop, so they're coming into each other's ways, and okay, a lot of people over here, right? And so now this is very densely populated, this pizza shop. And so because of that, what's going to happen is, at a quantity of 50, if they supply a quantity 50, they're willing and able to supply that quantity at a price of 60 US dollars. So this is how it works. And there is only one explanation for the supply curve, unlike in the case of the demand curve. And so that's pretty much it for the second point. And this is the third point. So market supply refers to the total quantity supplied by all firms in the market. It is obtained by adding the supply of all firms in the market at each price level. It follows that the market supply curve is the horizontal summation of all the individual supply curves present in the market/industry. So as we discussed in the case of demand, it's the same as supply, right? So in both the cases, we are just adding the individual demand curves in the case of demand, and in the case of supply over here, we are just adding the individual supply curves at each and every price point. So at, let's say, a price point of 2, the quantity supplied by firm A is 100, by firm B it's 80, 120 by C, by D it's 150, and when we add them up at a price of $2, the market is willing and able to supply a total quantity of 450. And so this is known as the supply schedule of the market. And so that's pretty much it from this video.